Up until 20 years ago, the elite had actually placed the Earth on the timeline that they wished. Something around 15 to 20 years ago, the Earth jumped the timeline, now on a much more positive timeline for humanity. So the negative group are doing everything they can in an attempt to try and push the Earth back onto the timeline or the railroad track that they want. You must understand that the elite were promised the New World Order 10, 15, 20 years ago. It hasn't happened. So they're desperate because they have a massive following, a huge army of people who all pay them money, and they have to try and keep their membership under control. And one of the ways of doing that is to make these great big world happenings, which I think didn't the Americans coin the term shock and awe, but also in an attempt to bring the timeline to a more favorable from their perspective. Right. Something has come into our solar system. A large object has been detected by both the Vatican, the Lucifer telescope, I think, was the first one to pick it up clearly. NASA obviously have detected it. But this is not a comet. The archons are non-physical, and they actually manipulate the reptilian force, although the reptilians are so proud that they wouldn't accept that. The archons, and I have had a conversation with a good friend of mine just on this subject, the archons are in their own way trapped, and they can see the way that the human race is developing, and they need to leave. They cannot leave through the portal because the portal is on the verge of collapsing. So all this has been known for many thousands of years. But if we look at, say, the Industrial Revolution, if we look at the creation of atomic power, these very, very, very little developments in human technologies have been brought about for one purpose, and that is to force the human race ahead of its normal plan to develop technologies that will enable these creatures to obtain what they need. For instance, if you wanted to build a spacecraft of an enormous size, you would need nearly all of the population to build it for you. And you would also need the raw materials, the exotic materials, the processes. And so Earth and the humans on Earth have, for the last 200, 300 years, technologically advanced at an unnatural rate. I don't care what any scientist says to me. So the way that the human race has evolved technically is unnaturally fast. It's outstripped humans' spiritual understanding. And that was deliberate, because had the spiritual development been in peace, then many, many people would have said, slow down, this isn't right. But because our spiritual development has been artificially held back, and our technological advances have been synthetically pushed upwards, we have been led to believe that this is the only way forward, that technology is the savior. And if those of you who can remember the 1970s, that was the great period where people were told that science was going to save the world. We would have, we'd run out of food if we didn't have this, or we'd have nowhere to live. We now have corporations all over the globe manufacturing very advanced technologies. These technologies have been created by people because this energy that I refer to, the archonic energy, was incapable of creating it itself, because it's not corporeal, it's not no body. It is an intelligence, it is an energy that physically cannot create. But what it's done is it's gone in and captured the minds of the leaders in many countries and the individuals who exert power, and through them it has created a massive network. It's very clever, so I will say that. It's very clever, it's very manipulative. Now this is where the ideas of killing 3/4 of the population come from. Because once this device has been built, or once the technologies have reached a set level, they then say, we don't need any more technology. We have what we need. We don't need the people. And this is where it's about. And now the top arm of the Illuminati have jumped on that, and they've said, oh yes, because then we can enjoy the planet without having to look at all these useless people. So we have two threads here. The top Illuminati, who have been promised the earth, and they can walk in Central Park and they won't see anybody else because everyone else is dead. And then you have the Archonic group, which are saying once we have achieved the technological level, well, we will just destroy these people because they've created for us this technology. What people don't realize is that if that were ever to happen, which it's not going to, but if it was ever to happen, this little group of Illuminati who think they're going to inherit the world would also be destroyed, because they will become a hindrance because their knowledge is very great. And, you know, there are a number of people now in very high up positions who have woken up to that. And that is why we're getting a kickback, we're getting a lot of help. So what I would say is that there are unseen energies at work which have manipulated the human race for thousands of years in ways that even researchers of our subject are not aware of. Even people who have spent 20 years researching this, some of them don't grasp just how manipulated the human race has been. And people in the Vatican have thrown their lot in with it because they believe they are on the winning side, or they did think that. And now we have a situation where there's a lot of doubt, which is the winning side. So, you know, that's where we are at the moment. So basically, that's still continuing, but the changes that have occurred in the last 5 years have been such that the outcome is in doubt from their perspective. In other words, they've always believed that they would get what they wanted, but for the last 5 years, they now doubt that they can possibly achieve it. And this is why different groups like the White Dragon Society, the Red Dragon Society, the whole group of the Knights Templars are taking themselves away from what was at one time one solid elite organization. They are fracturing left, right and center. A few years ago, and more recently, Hollywood made very, very popular the concept of an object like a meteor that was going to hit the Earth, and how missiles could be launched or nuclear bombs could be placed on it to blow it up so it didn't hit the Earth. In other words, they were attempting to get the population of Earth, or at least the Western world, ready for a potential contact with some large body. My understanding for September is a little bit different. There is a strong potential of a lie being placed that a large object will impact somewhere in North America. It's not going to, but that is what may be